Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Adam Caplan and Geoff Mosher, and we're not the only ones that's back. Philadelphia Eagles are back. The NFL is back. Training camp is underway. Eagles already have, by the time people listen to this, Adam, Eagles will have one practice underneath their belt and perhaps a second, although the weather is not supposed to be great, so we'll see what happens. We may have to go inside for day two. But we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of developments both on offense, defense. For the first time in a long time, Adam, this was pretty cool because I was at camp. You'll be there in a day or so. But for the first time in a long, long time, the coaches, the players were able to speak to the reporters non-virtually, like right there in a press conference at the NovaCare complex outside. And it was pretty cool. And I got to say, for those who always think that the relationship between media and player or coach is adversarial and they think everybody who sat at that podium looked out there. All six guys were like, you know what? It's good to see you guys. It's nice to actually have personal interactions. And people like that, making face-to-face interactions again. So hopefully things continue to, trend positively. We'll talk about that, but that was nice to see.
It was. On Wednesday, I went my first tour stop for my training camp tour. I'm so glad to be back on. I cannot tell you. On Wednesday, I went to visit the Steelers, and it was so good to see their PR staff. Bert Loughton, who's awesome. He's one of my favorite guys. He's a really good dude, and they really care about the media. Bert's a great guy, and they got me Matt Canada, the OC, so it was great to talk to him.
Nice.
But overall, yeah, look, you were able to go to practice on Wednesday. I was. Later today, I'm going to Washington. So the good thing about that, because it's an NFC East team, we'll talk about what I saw, and I probably will talk to some of the coaches. We'll talk about that for the Monday show. And then I will be at Eagles tomorrow, which is Friday, and Saturday. And then Saturday night's a night practice, which is kind of interesting. The Giants are doing the same thing, so I look forward to going.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty fascinating. And then, of course, we'll be back there next week, too. It's kind of cool, even though we work together, to be able to go to Eagles practice on different days.
Yeah,
because then at least ITB is represented mostly throughout the week, and we can kind of share ideas. And by the way, you're going to Washington at a time that's kind of very interesting because obviously the head coach, Ron Rivera, not very happy about his team's vaccination rate, especially given what he went through last year to fight cancer while still coaching. So you're going there at an interesting time. Speaking of interesting, I want to thank Ruben Frank. He was our latest guest on Inside the Birds. Ruben Frank of NBC Philadelphia, former colleague of mine when it was called CSN Philly. We all went and took a stroll down Eagles training camp memory lane. And for Rube, that goes all the way back to Westchester and the late 80s and Buddy Ryan. And he had some great stories, man. I really enjoyed talking to Rube. I think you did too, just about the personalities. But not just that, because the personalities are there throughout the regular season too. But there's something about training camp and the newness and everybody's optimism and hearing funny stories of Buddy going into a porta potty and Jerome Brown trying to knock it over. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you don't get at the complex, whether it's at the vet or at the at NovaCare or anything like that. So, training camp's fun, and it was always fun at Lehigh too.
No one has better stories than Rube, and you and Rube work closely, so you guys have some great stories. It was just kind of fun to watch you guys kind of talk. I'm just as a spectator.
Yeah.
And then I threw it because I know Rube. So the funniest thing was I had to do it because I'm an Eagles historian to a little bit growing up in the area. And I had to bring up Gizmo Williams.
I had to put that in the headline. I mean, Gizmo Williams, what a great story, right?
Oh, my God. But I just remember our friend Mel Reese saying, Gizmo Williams.
You don't
I don't know if he was even here for more than a year, but he was a CFL Hall of Famer. And all the players that Ruben got to know, and a great Jerome Brown story. I'm not going to give it away. Is see, these are the things about you and Rube. Like, I was never a beat reporter, so I didn't know the team. Like, I saw it from a different angle.
Right.
You got to know the players so well, and the stories and the things you would see in the locker room. I mean, I've been in plenty of locker rooms and spent time there, but you guys would see it from a little bit of a different lens, and I love hearing you guys share those stories.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle, man, being a beat writer. And Rube, by the way, nobody does a better Rich Kotite impression than Rube. I mean, he's worked on that thing for years.
I used to call him Richie Uptight, and I didn't even know the guy. I just would. That's the way he was. Oh my goodness gracious. We need to get a player who played for, other than Seth Jordan. We got to get Seth on. Which Seth's a friend of ours. We need to get. I just did his show.
That would be great.
We need to get Seth on because I got to hear, because I know he ripped Kotite. I remember it. I want to get set the record straight on exactly what he said. Norman Brayman, all those. I love that stuff. If you're a true Eagles fan, look, we know in Philly, Buddy Ryan never won a playoff game, but boy, the love affair that the fans have with Buddy Ryan, my goodness gracious. Listen to what Ruben said. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, and also big shout out to Q&A. Great Q&A as they kind of detail what it was like for them to go to camp, from just the drive up, what's going through your mind, to some pretty funny roommate stories that you have to listen to them to really hear.
Oh, can't wait. So
Jason made an interesting point, and it's really pertinent to what we're going to get into today. Jason feels that the Eagles' best chance to win this year is to put stock in that offensive line that you have, that great offensive line, and the really good running back that you can have in Miles Sanders. And he thinks the way to win for this team this year is to run the ball. And as he said that, I think it was Q who said, okay, but is the owner going to allow that and be happy with it? And that was
100%.
the $1 million question there. Yeah. And Q kind of talked about teams that compensate. Listen, I'm sorry, Jason. Jason's not trying to say you should run the ball 65% of the time. He's not trying to. He's smart. He's not trying to he played for Andy Reid. He's not trying to turn the clock back 65 years, right? But he also But he also pointed out some teams that have creative schemes, but that still run, like the 49ers will run the ball. They'll use multiple tight ends. They'll use a fullback. He talked about the Ravens. You know, they have a mobile athletic quarterback. The Eagles, I don't compare Jalen Hurts to Lamar Jackson, but they are athletic, and you can get them on the move. And he said the way to really get Jalen Hurts to play the best is to work off play action. And if you can use that offensive line and establish the run game, then get him going with some quarterback movement and then some deep throws, you can really start to help build up Jalen Hurts. I don't think he's saying you should be this way all the time. He just felt for this team, for where the strength is, run the ball. I don't disagree with him. I just don't know that the owner sees it that way, and if that's going to help the head coach acclimate to this franchise.
The analytics people do not think there's anything that the establishment of run it's really not real. It's just a phrase that people use, but they don't believe in it. Mm-hmm. I'm an analytics guy by trade, but I do believe you got to use your personnel the right way. And you're right. Now, and we're going to get into in a minute your views, and I can't wait to hear this stuff on what you saw in offense and defense, because they are loaded at running back. This is the first time in a long time where although Sproles got hurt that year, but they had Clement and obviously Blunt and others. They are super deep and super versatile at running back, and why not use those guys and figure out ways for them to be effective?
Right. There you go. So I thought it was an interesting point. We'll see what they do. Also, Jason said, and listen, Jason and Q, I help them out, I help produce it, but their thoughts are their thoughts. I don't put it in their head. I don't know if they're listening to us or not, but they went through a little series at the end called "Who's going to have a big year? Who's going to decline?" Right? Okay. And Jason Avant said, "I'll tell you who's going to decline." He said, "John Hightower," and he said, "Look, I know that sounds strange because it's not like he's really high now to begin with. It's not like he's very accomplished, but
right, sure."
He basically said, the team's sour on him. He doesn't love football. With some guys, you see their social media, you see that.
Did he say that? I'm listening to it later
he coached
today.
Him last year. He was an assistant wide receivers coach.
I know. He would know. He would know.
Yeah.
Wow.
He said some guys, you see their social media posts, and it's about what they're doing in football. You look at John Hightowers, and it's not about football. Is that the be-all, the end-all? No. And listen, I'm just the messenger here. But it is consistent with, people have constantly asked us why we don't think John Hightower is going to be on the team, or why it's being held against him when he showed the ability to get open. And we've talked about that. You've brought it up a billion times about the maturity issues and how the team views him. So
folks, I don't make anything up.
Yeah, hopefully hearing it from somebody else. Like,
I appreciate it. That's strong. Well, listen, as you said, Jason helped coach the receivers. He knows these receivers more than probably anyone, because plus he's a former player.
Right.
He was trying to teach them, and Jason's such a leader. Yeah, Hightower. Look, there's a reason why he didn't go as high as he should have. He was a 5th-round pick for a reason. There's some challenges with him. The challenges with Quez Watkins for maturity, and we'll see how that he works out. And we'll get into that
in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. I just look when I put stuff on the show. There's a reason. The whole goal of Inside the Birds is for you to be a smarter fan.
Right.
You don't have to agree with us, but we want you to have the right information. This show is built on sourcing, team and league sources. It's the only reason I do this show with Geoff, and Geoff does it with me. We want you to be smarter, and then we want you when you talk to your friends when the Eagles lose. I know you're going to be pissed, but you're going to know why.
Right.
That way you don't have to guess. You're going to know why. Now you could argue they should have done whatever they did, whatever they didn't do. They should have done this. Hey, that's what we're here for. We want you to be better. We want us to be better by getting better information. We bring it all for you. It's the reason why I don't put it on Twitter. I hold this stuff. I put it on here.
Yeah.
We want to reward you guys for listening. We're going to continue to do that.
Well, we'll get into it. John Hightower got some pretty good amount of reps on day one for a couple of reasons that we'll get into.
All right.
He certainly does have an opportunity to turn this around and
once again,
at least erase the stigma, if you want to call it, or change the narrative about him. He'll have the next few weeks to do that. We will get into that. First, as we always remind you, don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for the things you want. Please get on Deal Dash. You can download the app or go to dealdash.com. When you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids at dealdash.com or on the Deal Dash app. All right, so let's talk first. Before we get into what happened on day one, let's talk about who was there, who wasn't there, and the medical situation facing the team. It is a positive that that Howie Roseman was happy to report that 90% of the team, the players, not coaches. Coaches are got to be 100%.
Yep.
Players have at least started the vaccination process.
I think he said, did he say at least had one?
That means started the process. They've had at least one shot. Yeah.
Got it.
That's what I interpreted as.
Yeah, exactly. I think he did say at least one.
Right.
That's good. Yes.
You
know, it's their decision. They can do whatever they want, but it's what you really, as a club, you just are hoping that if they could all be vaccinated, that way you don't have to go into, they don't have to wear the wristband, they don't have to go through all the challenges, and you want to be a highly functioning team. You just don't want to have to deal with this stuff anymore. And good, they're off to a good start there.
Yeah, Jason Kelce made that point. And by the way, Jalen Hurts said he did get the vaccine, so that's obviously the most important position, and he won't have to be separate from the team. And by the way, Carson Wentz out in Indianapolis wore a mask at his press conference and said he declined to answer whether or not he had been vaccinated. And that matters for the Eagles as far as, playing time and how the trade's going to work out with snaps and everything like that. But Jason Kelce said, look, people may still be skeptical, but when you get inside the NovaCare and you see the only way to have lunch with your teammates again and build that camaraderie and be able to be around them is to be vaccinated, it changed some people's minds. So he said it kind of made people see a different perspective, and that helped accelerate the vaccination rate. So that news out of the way. Now, there are still a couple of guys who ended up on the COVID list, Adam. Alex Singleton, the linebacker, on the COVID list. Andrew Adams, the safety, and Matt Leo, the defensive end, on the what do they call it? The
international exemption.
International exemption, yeah. But obviously the biggest one of those three is Alex Singleton, because he's really trying to see what he's going to be in this defense, and it did give snaps to other guys who are trying to compete as well. We'll get into that too. So from a health standpoint, there's that. So there's also a couple of players, Adam, who are hurt, and it's hard to figure out how guys got hurt before the first training camp practice. But and they don't tell you. It's not like the Eagles tell you. They gave you the injuries, but I will say, without knowing how, you can, if you listen to Q&A, they talk about how difficult that conditioning test is and what you have to do to pass it. And again, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying when you see guys have a hammy or have a conditioning issue, you can connect the dots there. So 3 guys who are out. Isaac Seumalo is week to week already with a hamstring injury.
Another offensive lineman.
Yeah. Now I know. And that, by the way, that gave Nate Herbig a chance to, it was the more things change, right? You draft Landon Dickerson, You beef up your offensive line. You hope that you get everybody back healthy. And day one, you've already got Nate Herbig back in the starting lineup.
Herbie is so valuable to them. He's he was grossly overweight last year. We reported a couple months ago that he lost 30 pounds. And if you saw his Instagram, he looked really good. And he's taken some other people, put some other pictures up. Right. So he did. He was in left guard, huh?
He was in at the first team left guard. I mean,
Good.
Who else would be?
Okay.
That would be the natural
Yep.
one.
Sure.
Now, Jalen Reagor threw everyone into a tizzy because he wasn't out there at the start of practice. Then all of a sudden he was out there during warm-ups, but then he wasn't having the helmet on, and I think he was wearing different sneakers and everything. And then right before the start of practice, like actual practice, he was off the field again. So the team basically called it a lower leg injury, and I think they labeled it as day-to-day. It's my understanding he's fine, and that it's precautionary that they pulled him out. Something came up, and they just didn't want to stress it on the first day.
Got it.
I don't know what time people are going to listen to this. Practice might be underway as people are hearing it on Thursday. He might be out there on Thursday. So that's what we.
I want to see him Friday, man. I hope it. Yeah, whoever you talk to, I pray that they're right, because I want to see him. I want to see Devontae Smith. And we're going to get into your practice report in a minute.
Yeah.
Someone want to know. Someone asked me on Twitter, and I'll just answer it. So with Dickerson on NFI, the reason why he's on NFI is because he came in with a pre-existing injury, which he's rehabbing, and he got hurt away from the complex. For some reason, as a rookie, they're putting him on NFI instead of PUP because LaRaven Clark's on PUP. Both are on active, which means they can come back anytime. The reason why they must start on a list.
Yep. Because
if you don't do this, you cannot put once the training camp starts. You cannot put them on any list other than injured reserve.
Right.
Or obviously COVID if they have to, but and then what they can do is they'll make it. With Dickerson, it's just a matter of, and McLeod too, because he's come back from PUP. Yep. It's when if they're not ready for the regular season, the Eagles have a decision to make. If they keep on the list, and they become reserve NFI, reserve PUP, which means they have to miss at least 6 weeks.
Right. It would be great, more so for Dickerson. I think that if he can get off that list and be medically cleared before the start of the regular season.
Yeah, I hope so.
With McLeod, you don't worry about it as much. Yes, he's learning a new defense, but he's a veteran. He should be fine.
Sure.
But he's played a lot of games. You would love Dickerson to be able to practice.
Yeah, I agree. And here's a question I want to ask you about Seumalo. You didn't see him work, did you?
No, he did not. I saw him watching the team, kind of standing there with the trainers, but I did not see him doing it. He did not have a helmet on. He did not have shorts and shells on. And again, the team listed him as week to week. So
that's a now I'm not saying it's 2 months. And I listen to Sirianni talk on Wednesday. He said he didn't want to go deep in the injuries, but he said, like, it sure sounded, I have to get the exact quote. It was almost as though he said they'll be ready for the regular season, but didn't say when they would be on the field. But I heard it live, so I didn't look at the transcript.
Right.
I'm going to take a look and see what he meant, and then I'm going to try to follow up and find out.
Well, I know he said he wasn't putting a timetable on anybody, so it was very difficult.
Yes, but that he did say in passing something about being ready for the regular season. I don't know, or getting them ready for the regular season, whatever. So who ran with Reagor out? Like, who were the guys running with the ones?
Well, we need to talk about Quez Watkins too, because he was also.
Oh, go ahead. What happened with him?
And the Eagles said in their offering to the media, he's out, incomplete physical, which I found to be a very strange wording, especially knowing that they took the conditioning test the day before. And again, I don't want to make direct declarations. In some ways we have to assume because we don't get enough information, but what would cause somebody not to complete their physical to be able to be on the field? I would think not making it through your conditioning test. Like he may have to,
but Belichick,
which has happened before.
Yes, Belichick puts guys, as you just said, that don't finish the conditioning test or not good enough physical shape. He puts them active PUP, and once they pass it, they are taken off of it. So I don't know. Who knows? Again, as you said, we don't know exactly what the Watkins situation is. That's not incomplete physical. I've never heard of that before.
I know. And I'm
21 years, like 21st year.
Yeah, what would cause somebody, an athlete, to not be able to finish a physical? But so the only thing I think of was that he didn't do the conditioning test in the time that he was supposed to, and that's considered a a failure. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, look. This is
We'll look.
this is interesting. I've never heard of that before, so I'm gonna have to check. I got some stuff to check on for Friday, Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I were him, I think that's a bad look for him. You're a 6th round pick. It's not like you had a sterling rookie year. You didn't really, do anything until the last few games of the year. You have an opportunity here to fight for that 4th or 5th spot, whatever it's going to be. 5th spot, really.
Yep.
Right.
And he and Hightower.
Yeah, and you would have had a chance to run with the first team because of Greg Ward was absent because of a non-COVID illness. So you have no Ward, no Rager, right? Got an opportunity to get in there, and you could not complete your physical. So we'll have to find out more, but I feel like that's not a great thing for Quez Watkins.
Well, if he's not back, okay, so today's Thursday, right? I think it's going to rain today. But if he's not back by the weekend, then this is absurd. You got to be ready. You got to be ready, man. I don't know. There's such a wonderful opportunity for Watkins and Hightower to be the 5th receiver because that's what they're battling for. The first 4 spots are taken,
right?
But that 5th job's wide open. Absolutely wide open.
And if your name is JJ Arcega-Whiteside, you're like, hey, I got a second life here, my friend.
Sure.
And so that transitions nicely into talking about what we saw on offense. By the way, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, as we have talked about in the past, and as Jason Avant has mentioned on Q&A, took advantage of Greg Ward not being there and saw a lot of time in the slot. So
was he? Okay,
he was in the slot. By my I can't keep my eye on every single play.
I know it's hard,
do my
man.
best. You know how it is.
Sure.
But from the most times I saw him lined up, he was in the slot with Devontae Smith on the outside and Fulgham on the outside.
All right. Questions. Okay,
yes,
off
sir.
that. How did JJ look? How did Smith look?
Mm-hmm.
Fulgham's, I would obviously give us what you got, but did you notice how JJ moved in the slot? And plus, because with Ward out, he had to be the first team slot, right?
Yeah, right. So let me be fair and paint a picture. Almost all of the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 that took place on day one was red zone. They worked heavily in the red zone. So there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities to show your separation downfield or for Jalen Hurts to drive the ball, things of that nature. There were a few. They did do a couple of drills where they were facing, going away from their end zone, but there was a lot of red zone. And so everything was kind of short and sweet on day one.
Okay.
So there was one play where JJ Arcega-Whiteside caught a pass along the back line of the end zone and thought he had a touchdown. The problem is he caught it right in front of the umpire, who saw that his foot was out of bounds. So he did not get credit.
Well, listen, if he makes the team and he's their 5th receiver, that is an area. Remember, that was the one thing you thought you could count on with him.
Yep.
Is to be a red zone guy.
Right.
And it obviously has not happened at all. So I told you a week ago I heard Ertz's hair is different. I didn't know that it was blonde though. Is that correct?
It was blonde. Yeah, he.
I did. Well, actually, what am I talking about? I saw your Twitter. Because what happened was, I was streaming through your Twitter because again, on Wednesday I was at Steelers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell?
You think he's having more fun now that he's
look, Zach's awesome. I love it. I just kind of not what I was expecting.
Right.
No one. I didn't hear blonde though. That was interesting. Well, I guess
it was interesting. Blonde. All right.
Yeah. Could I ask you a question? Again, I'm a little bit in the dark on the Wednesday's practice, so I saw your notes and great stuff on the website. Folks, go to our website, InsideTheBirds.com. Jeff's got some great notes, but here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
How much did Ertz practice on Wednesday?
All right, so I really tried to pay attention to this as much as possible.
Okay.
He did practice. He was in there. Now, again, context is so important in this case. Most of it was red zone, and they only practiced for 90 minutes, and that means everything. And I don't mean they did 90 minutes of 7-on-7, 11-on-11, right? They did 90 minutes the entire practice, including warm-ups and then individual drills. So there weren't a ton of overall reps. And then when you just take first-team reps out of all the reps, there are even fewer, right? And then you take positions like running back, receiver, and tight end where you have rotations, then it's even fewer than you think. So there really wasn't a whole lot of Zach Ertz on the field, but neither was there a whole lot of Dallas Goedert. Neither was there a whole lot of other veterans that
Gotcha.
Miles Sanders, right? But I will say this, because I looked for this intentionally,
right.
And this is just day one. I'll keep repeating that.
Yeah.
There were no times that I saw Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert on the field in the same formation in a 12 personnel look. So when you're the Eagles and you're trying to sit there and put on a spin here and say, no, Zach Ertz is going to be back and we're going to have all these looks. Well, if Zach Ertz is going to play this year, you're going to have to use him, right? We talked about this. You're not just going to have him collect dust on the bench. You're going to want to be in some 12 personnel there, exploiting him and Dallas Goedert. But that was not the case on day one. I did not see any of that.
Okay.
I saw 11 personnel with Dallas, and I saw 11 personnel with Zach.
Okay, and let's not forget, this is the first practice for Sirianni and his staff, and it was a small practice. And the thing that was interesting, hearing him and Roseman talk, is that the reason why they did not report the quarterbacks and injured players early is because he felt like I guess they were tired. He said we talked about in the press conference.
Yeah, it was a very strange answer.
Yeah, I look. He knows better than I. Who might have questioned it, but I thought that was. I said it when we found out. When we checked the schedule, we're like, wait a minute, they're all reporting together. Why would they do that? As a new staff, why don't you take advantage of it?
Right.
I don't agree with it, but the guy knows more than I do, so I have to take his word for it.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think the telltale signs going forward, because you can't make anything out of one day, is will he be practicing multiple days in a row like this? Will he be practicing when the pads come out and the contact?
Ertz.
Yeah, Zach Ertz. I'm sorry.
Great question. That's a great question.
Right. Will he be practicing? And maybe
I'll
tomorrow,
look for it.
Yeah, maybe when you're there, it's an all 12 personnel day, and then that's all of a sudden.
That's what I mean, because
like, who knows?
So I was at Steelers practice on Wednesday, and Kendrick Green, the top-rated center, was there. He took all the ones, all of them. In fact, they did hitting, they did everything. Because remember, they've been there for a week because they're playing in the Hall of Fame game, so they get to come in a week earlier. Now, one of the guys competing for the job, Hassenauer, did not work on Wednesday, so that may have been why. Although they drafted him, the way I understand, they drafted Green to be their eventual starter. But look, these other guys who are there could take it away from him anyway. That's why I don't want to make too much of it if one guy's not practicing.
Right.
Because that's the thing that I've been lulled to sleep on this stuff, and I've made mistakes thinking that that's the way things are going to be. Right. That's why Geoff and I have to keep checking in with people we know who know what's going on and making sure like again. Okay, so here's a great example. The next question I have on offense. Left tackle, what did that look like to you on the rotation? Did they rotate at left tackle? What did they do? It
was a rotation. By my estimation, it was 50-50 Andre Dillard, Jordan Mailata. The numbers may not really be 50-50. I did not chart, but it looked like that to me. If I'm wrong and somebody got more than somebody else, it was probably Mailata getting more than Dillard.
All right.
I think.
Who got the first snap?
You know what? It's funny. I tried to look, but because I had the defense in front of me, and the offense, because it was red zone, they were coming at me, but so the defense is kind of obstructing my view. We're only allowed to stand in certain spots, right?
Oh, I forgot.
And then we got you got fans there, so it's hard to sometimes wedge through them too, them also.
Well, the good thing is I'm hopeful, and I don't know because the Steelers practice on Wednesday was they're going to be all at the stadium now. Mm-hmm. They let us sit in the stands. It was great. The fans were there, and it was great. I was able to see everything, and I'm hoping on Saturday night. Oh, actually, it's not. It's at NovaCare. What am I talking about? This Saturday night practice is at NovaCare, which I find fascinating.
Right.
I'm just hoping that we get. So here's my question then, in response to that. Did you think that you got a good enough up close to see what you needed to see?
Oh yeah, definitely. You just asked me about the first reps. Like sometimes you got to figure out where the best spots are. Like for example, you don't know that they're going to be doing red zone right from nobody gives you a manual that says here's what they're going to do. So I'm like, I got to get myself on the other side. You know what I'm saying? It's all feeling out process.
Because folks, just so you know, if you've not been to NovaCare for the training camp practices, what are there? 3 fields?
There's 1, 2, 3. No, there's 4, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
But the problem is sometimes they do it on a field where it's so far away. Like we could go to the far field, but they only let us watch on one side, and you can't. Sometimes it's hard to see who's in there.
Right.
So what I did last summer is I brought my binoculars, which I don't like doing, but I have little mini ones.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
That was thank goodness the injury wasn't bad. When Avery, we thought he tore his ACL. It looked so bad. He was writhing in pain, and I happened to see it with my binoculars because it was like my long distance eyes are terrible. I can't see past like 25 yards. I really struggle.
Right.
And I saw he was coming at me. It was in front of me, but if I didn't have my binoculars, I wouldn't be able to see. And that's the thing now with practices, because Jim Harbaugh, when he was an Irish head coach, and the beat writers would tell me when I would go, absolutely positively would have the practices on the far field so we couldn't watch as much, just to tweak us. You just never know. Do you remember Chip or Andy doing that? I don't think so.
Yeah, I remember Chip practicing.
Did he?
When they went team 11 on 11,
okay,
they used the field the furthest away from the media.
And could we go over there? I don't remember.
Because it was the one that's furthest away. It's kind of like if you picture the rectangle right in front of you, it's like the middle northern part, and the standing area is around the perimeter. Yeah, and you can like a U shape for where you're standing. You can't get to the field where they practice on. They don't allow you around the entire perimeter.
Correct. They always say you got to walk the perimeter, and then don't do what I did when I got in trouble for walking in the restricted area when I wasn't paying attention. Got the Derek Boyd go look.
Get in trouble.
Yeah, I did.
That's right. Yeah. So in general, Adam, I thought that it was a difficult day for the offense. I want to tell people though, in my 15 or 16 years of covering this team, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that the first week of camp, the defense is always ahead of the offense. Why? Because offense takes timing, takes rhythm. You're constantly getting shuffled in and out with different players. If you're a quarterback, right, or whether it's a running back, receiver, tight end, you're really starting to feel everything. And your offensive line really can't block the way it normally could because they're not in pads. Right, you're supposed to just be going halfway. But for some reason, the defensive linemen, they don't go halfway off the snap. They only go halfway when they get near the quarterback and they have to pull up. But when that snap goes, they got the hands more swiping. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So you always see the offense a little bit behind the defense. So I'll say this: Devontae Smith did not put on the best showcase of himself. I think in day one, he dropped a few balls, which is like something he never did.
That's breaking news. Yeah, he doesn't drop the ball. Yeah, I mean, wow.
And it just did not look like a really clean, crisp, precise route runner. Again, I think when you're the first round pick and it's your first day, there's a lot going on in your head. You tend to play slowly when you're got a lot going on up there, and it's not. And he listen. You can criticize me for saying that if you're listening and being like I'm being harsh. The guy sat at the podium, was asked how he did, and he said, This was not my best day. There's a lot I can work on. So, and
good.
I ran this by some others too. I mean, he didn't have his best day.
Yeah, accountability is huge. I love that about him. I'm just him and Dickerson. I hope it works out with Dickerson with the injury because that's the only thing that'll stop him from being a stud.
Right.
And Smith is an absolute stud of a kid. It just okay. Look, you and I were Jeremy Macklin's first practice. I think in 2009 was he drafted? Was that sound correct? 2009?
Yes. Now
or 10, whatever.
He held out for a little bit, so he was behind. He came in behind a little.
Andrew
bit
Brandt did that deal. Do you know that for the Eagles?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So that was the 1 year he did contracts for the Eagles. So I was at Macklin's, you were at Macklin's, and I remember Andy going after him a little bit. He didn't play with urgency.
Right.
Needed to speed things up. Route running was slow, and obviously Jeremy was a stud player. I mean, other than the injuries, he was pretty productive, but he struggled his day. I don't read much into it. Now, if he's doing this for 2 weeks, we're going to start going, man, okay, he needs to get going here. But
God, I don't want to. Yeah, let's just keep it, but one day at a time. Because if he's doing this for a week or two, and all of a sudden the ghost of Eagles wide receivers passed.
No, don't say that. Don't you start with Nay Brown. Don't you?
I'm just saying.
I know. I'm kidding. But look, I understand though, because I didn't know until you said this with Devontae Smith. We all, if you like watch, if you go to practice or if you're an Eagles fan or whatever, because we're all high on Smith. For him to struggle the first day, it's disappointing because you want to look like you were told he was supposed to look, and that he didn't. Okay, it happens,
right?
But I get it. It's disappointing.
Yep. He'll have plenty of time to come back. And I would say the same for Jalen Hurts. I thought he did a couple of okay things, but he also struggled at times. Again, you're only doing red zone mostly. You're not getting a ton of reps because it's not that, it was a short practice. Tried to go over the middle a couple of times. Once to Gainwell, got picked off by Josiah Scott. Had another one batted away by Kavon Wallace, who was probably getting some time there because of McLeod. Yeah, it looked like Wallace. Well, we'll get into the defensive side in a minute, but I think Wallace and Anthony Harris were your safeties.
Okay.
So those were two. There was a play where Jalen rolled to his left and he tried to tuck it under. He pretended to kind of tuck it like he was going to run, but then he quickly pulled back and threw to the left corner of the end zone for Devontae Smith. But Darius Slay batted it down fairly easily. It was just, They had no chance. So
good.
On the next play, though, he rolled to his right and he did throw a touchdown that I think Devontae Smith caught. So that was nice.
Nice. Okay.
Good comeback and recovery.
2 more questions before we get to defense, just quickies.
Yeah.
Because they were so down a receiver. Remember, the one kid they had to cut, the undrafted free agent for Florida because he got hurt.
Right.
You had 2 guys down today. Wait, at least 2, right?
How many? Yeah, because you were down Rager. Well, 3. You were down Rager, you were down Watkins, and you were down
Ward.
Right.
Wow.
So that's why I said you were able to see. You saw John Hightower get mixed in with the first.
Who else?
Team.
Did Michael Walker practice?
Yeah. I was gonna. He turned in the catch of the day. He caught up. I think it was from Flacco. Kind of what would look maybe like a slant or a cross, kind of an in-breaking route. Caught it in the end zone. Took the hit because he kind of caught it in traffic. Took the hit at him. Continued his momentum because he couldn't really stop himself at that point, and just went smack dab into the goalpost. I mean, he went bam, cranked the thing and fell.
Ouch.
But he held on to the football. So that's a touchdown. That was actually a nice catch. And I joked to somebody, if he makes a few more of those, he might be in the candidate for the 5th wide receiver.
You know what? I mean, this is crazy. So they only have 9 receivers on the roster. 3. So they only suited. I've never heard of a team only suiting up 6 receivers for a practice. Wow.
Yeah.
So here it was. Day 1. Fulgham 1.
Right.
Osmond.
Smith. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Fulgham, Smith. Mm-hmm. Osmond is 3. Arcega-Whiteside's 4. Walker's 5.
And Hightower
6. Man, that's hard to. I mean, they only did 90 minutes, as you said, mostly red zone, so you can get away with it. But man, they might have to just to have bodies. Yeah, usually you have 10. It's rare for a team to carry less than double digits at receiver for training camp because of the heat.
Right.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah. Well, I hope J-Jaw, for his sake, put some good film out there. You know, I don't see the routes develop as that. You know, it's all happening in real time. Mm-hmm. So obviously the coaches go back and watch all the tape, but he got a lot of reps, so we'll see if he made the most of it. I'm sure you and I will find out as camp goes on. I told you about at tight end, Adam, the kid from Buffalo, the quarterback transfer, Tyree Jackson.
Yeah,
he showed up. He made a catch over the middle. I think the pass was a little high, but he's tall, so he just the big arms. You see him grab, and he turned it and ran upfield really well. And even a couple of guys kind of converged on him. And then they just bounced off him. I mean, he's got a lot of body. He's a big dude, right? The former quarterback.
6'7", yeah, 6'7".
So I think that was one of 2 catches that I saw him make on there. I think he made a sideline catch as well. If I'm getting the right guy. So sometimes you're just when so much is going on and there's play after play and you're trying to write notes. Sometimes it just sticks in your head like what your visuals. Like, oh, I remember that guy. You said his name, right? I don't remember even. I probably can't remember saying anything about, say, Miles Sanders. I mean, I know he was out there, but, they don't run a whole lot in these camps. And so there. But I do remember Tyree Jackson, like, thinking about him twice for a catch. So that's a good thing for him.
Okay. One more. Kenny Gainwell, did you notice him at all?
I noticed that so one of the things that we've talked about a lot is the idea of putting him and Sanders in the backfield together. And I did see that. There were some occasions where
the pony
2 back. Yeah, the old pony express or the modified version of it. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that was the package where Hurts was trying to hit him over the middle and got picked off by Josiah Scott. I did see that.
Yeah, Ryan Silverfield, his head coach of Memphis, told us on ITB TV he thought that they would do that just because Silverfield's a run game guy. He's one of the better run game designers in college football, and he said that he absolutely thought, just thinking it out, that why would you not put Gainwell and Sanders on the field at the same time? Because Gainwell's so explosive, so Sanders, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
All right, so that's pretty much offense. We'll get into defense in a second. First, I'm going to remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all the professional Philadelphia sports teams. Great coverage, great podcasts as well. Check them out on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation and their website, phlsportsnation.com. And we'll pause real quick right now for a word from our other great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you happen to go into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, please tell them that Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, so let's talk about defense, Adam. A lot of the defense, to me, will just be the discussion. Conceptually, I thought it was interesting because there was a lot of zone. All right, we've talked about what Gannon is going to do and the Zimmer-esque type defense. And last year, all we saw was man coverage for the most part. But so far on day one, a lot of zone, a lot of two deep zone. Now, sometimes you're playing zone, right, just because you got a young team or you're implementing a new defense and you kind of working on eye discipline. You want your players to see the routes develop. You want them to learn. And so that might have been a reason more so than that's the scheme they're going to run every single play. You've talked about how you've heard he's going to mix it up. You'll see some cover 2, you'll see some cover 1, you'll see some this, you'll see some that. You didn't see the gamut. It's not like we saw a lot of linebackers blitzing and X blitzes or anything like that. It was mostly soft zone coverage, I would say, that you saw.
Okay. Just a couple things. So I saw in the social media world that Milton Williams.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we knew he's going to play DN and D tackle, but was he just at DN on Wednesday?
I don't know 100% sure, but I know that he played more DN than DT. And I'm not sure why. They didn't really go into the thought process behind that. I do know that when the starting defensive tackles came off the field, when Hargrave and Cox came off the field, I remember seeing Hassan Ridgeway and T.Y. McGill as replacements. Now, that doesn't mean Marlon Tuipulotu didn't get in there, and I just didn't see it because, again, hard to see linemen, but that's what I saw when I was looking for it.
Man, I got a lot of stuff to look at on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. It's interesting because both Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham were asked about Milton playing defensive end, and they both confirmed that he was there, but neither of them kind of spilled the beans on why he saw all that time at defense. It's not like they're thin per se at defensive end. They could have played Sweat and Kerrigan. In fact, Sweat and Derek Barnett, Adam, rotated on a lot of first team reps. And Brandon Graham said Sweaty is coming. That's an exact quote. He thinks Sweat's going to have a nice impact this year.
Tell you what, I would have to go through the 31 other teams. I don't know if there's a better third end in the NFL. He's so good. Long, you can move him inside. He's just a good look. He's on the final year of his deal. If he gets an extension, I'm very curious to what that thing's going to look like. Based on the I know he's good now physically, but whether he'll ever be a 50 play game guy remains to be seen. Where they could be for the long term, but in his role, he's been fantastic. I got to give the Eagles credit for that. I know a team in the AFC West absolutely did not have him on the draft board because they did not think he'd be a second contract guy. Well, right now, he sure as hell is looking like a second contract guy. So I got to give the Eagles credit.
Yep.
And they obviously got a really good medical report. That's a good job of for the medical team because the way it works is, if they don't think you're a second contract guy, you don't get drafted. They take you off the board for medical reasons. And the Eagles clearly didn't. They kept him on there. So it's a good job by them.
Yeah, and he could feasibly agree to a contract extension at any time because he's played 3 years. And as you mentioned, 6 sacks last year. That was third on the team in his kind of situational role.
And he plays the run. In fact, his rookie season, 2018 was his rookie season. Before they put him on IR in December of that year, he was playing on base downs. I was like, what is he doing out there against the run? And some person I spoke to said, don't forget how long his arms are.
Right.
He chases. He's a good kid, good story. And this is that 18 draft. Now, I'll tell you what, this year, Maddox and Goddard and Sweat. This is the year for the 18 class because they're going to this is their year with Maddox going back to the slot as we expect him to. No more excuses for Maddox. I know he's had some injuries, but last year playing out of place, I understand that. That's fair. This year, no more excuses. He's got to get back to the player that he was.
Jordan Mailata was also in that draft. Was he not?
Jordan Mailata, was he? Yes.
Yes. That might wind up being a fairly good draft. For all the
really good if it.
Yeah.
Right. We'll see.
But obviously, Maddox and Sweat are kind of swing in that. They've got to really,
they
continue to progress.
Yes, they had 5 picks in that draft. Who was the other guy?
Who? I'm usually good at this. All right,
Yeah.
so it was Goddard.
Oh, Matt Pryor.
Oh, come on! You didn't even give me a shot.
No, because I'm looking at it. No, but I'm looking at it, and now let me ask you a
I like
question.
the challenge.
Here's the question. No, usually dude, you're ridiculous with this stuff. Ruben Randall, where'd you pull that out of? People, by the way, people love that we got somebody. Folks, listen, we were put on the spot. Like, obviously, in the back of my head, I would know Miles Sanders, and I just didn't.
Miles Austin, yeah.
I mean, Miles Austin, yeah. But I mean, I could. We had one. Now, this, by the way, this is. I told this guy to give him a shout out.
Okay.
Felix Jones was an awesome call by this guy.
That was amazing. I was so mad at myself.
I totally forgot
about that.
And I remember quizzing you. I said, "All right, you're never gonna get this."
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I did a Google search and I actually reported it. He was traded for, unfortunately, Adrian Robinson, who would later pass away from Temple.
Oh boy, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was a Pitts Steelers Eagles trade. But Felix Jones was so explosive before the Eagles got him, and he just didn't have much left.
No,
that was a great call by that guy. Ruben Randall is great by you. That was a
good pull.
Yeah, the best ever though was Frank Gore, the famous never had with the Eagles. But anyway,
yes, Tyler Anderson will go down in Philadelphia sports history as the Frank Gore of the Phillies.
So that never happened. What do you know? What did they say? What happened with that thing with the Pirates?
There was a medical holdup on one of the prospects that was going to be traded to the Pirates, and then the Pirates wind up making a deal with the Mariners instead.
Oh,
we hardly knew you, Tyler Anderson.
Boy, could they use him? Okay, got you.
All right, I'll finish off the defense. We'll talk a little bit about the linebacker situation with Alex Singleton out. It was like basically a mix and match next to Eric Wilson. I saw a lot of Eric Wilson. After that, at any moment, it could have been Davion. I think Davion Taylor got the first rep next to Eric Wilson on the defense. So I was like, whoa, I was surprised by that. But then pretty soon after, I saw Sean Bradley in there. And then other times I saw Jannard Avery in there. So it might have been different formations, different sub packages.
Yeah, true.
That's another one that's very difficult to figure out if it's first or second team because they're running guys in and out, and everybody's almost at the same level other than Eric Wilson. So,
yeah, well, look, the only certainty at linebacker, as we're told, is Wilson absolutely is the starter, and Singleton should be. But again, this is a new coaching staff, so we don't know enough yet. The defense, offensively, we got it down pretty well. We know where this is going. We think defensively, we know.
Yeah.
Have a pretty good idea, but still. There's some fuzziness on how these. I don't know Gannon. I don't know. I mean, I've talked to guys who've coached with him, but this is his first time as a play caller, and I don't know what he looks for at linebacker. Where we knew when Schwartz came in here, wide 9. We knew what the wide 9 was, and we know the weight needs to be played. We know it's all about getting upfield. They don't really play the run. They say they play the run all the way to the quarterback. Is the comedy of it. This guy is, look, this is there's just a lot we don't know about this staff. They got a 27-year-old linebackers coach. We don't know anything about him. Yep. So there's a lot we need to learn.
Yeah. And by the way, I just to put a bigger perspective on it from a coaching staff, Nick Sirianni, very animated, very, very made.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Known. Yeah. There was a play where I think it was Adrian Killens. Kind of, it was either a run or a short pass to the flat, and he was running with the ball, and the play's kind of over. And 3 guys converge on him. And you know how those defensive players are. They're trying to rip the ball out like even 10 seconds after the play is over. And one of them did. He went into the crowd. He kind of came out slow. Someone ripped the ball out. And to be fair, in a real game, the whistle probably would have already blown 5 seconds earlier. But it didn't. There's no whistle in this case. The ball came out. And Nick, went up there and said something, telling Killens, you got to, hold on to that ball. It's quintessential to be able to do that. There was a wide receiver. It wasn't J. Joe. Who was it? I forget who it was, who we kind of got into when a pass wasn't caught. So he was out there. You could hear him. He was making his presence known, as you would expect. Just watching his press conferences, he would be very, very, animated and very, very, very involved in what was going on there.
Well, it's funny. Andy Reid, was it my first or second year covering the NFL? It was probably my first practice with Andy. Might have been. I don't think I went, and I definitely didn't go in '99. I wasn't there for the George Hegeman story. Although I love it. Eagles better come correct. Well, they did, and they cut him on his contract. But I do remember. I think it was '01, probably my first year just going to Eagles practice. Andy was Andy was getting on. Andy, I think it just had got personnel control, I think in '01.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, boy, he definitely in the formative years with the Eagles, man, because he overtook a train wreck.
Yes.
And he felt like he needed to be vocal. And also, we saw when Vic's first practice, he went after Vic a little bit. I mentioned Macklin. The thing about Andy is people say, oh, Andy's a certain stoic and all this. Folks, Andy would pick his spots when he needed to go after the players. He would. And you know what? Coaches need to do that. And I'm glad you said that about Sirianni, because I've talked to the guy twice at Colts camp. I don't know him. Mm-hmm. And I knew everyone who's coached with him has told me he is exactly what he says he is. I'm like,
right.
All right, we'll see. I mean, you say this, but until we see, you don't know until you get there. And I'm glad you said that. That's good. That's a good nugget.
Cool. All right, we've got that. That kind of wraps up, puts a bow on day one of training camp. We got some other things we want to talk about. The obvious situation with Deshaun Watson. We want to get into a few things said in the press conferences. First, we got to remind you that DraftKings Sportsbook's not only our favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. And speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold. DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for our listeners. Listen to this great offer. Place any pre-event wager of $1 to be eligible to cash $100 in free credits if America wins any medal this year. Excuse me. That's 100-1 odds on an American athlete to stand on the podium and receive gold, silver, or bronze this week. 100-1 odds on an offer like this doesn't come around often, so sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook now to get in on all of the action. Look, we love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's very easy to navigate, plenty of instructions for new bettors, nearly limitless ways to get in on all of the action. Our friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook. We know you will too. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app and now use the promo code ITB when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code ITB to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You got to be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. All right, so this whole Deshaun Watson thing is it's got to be an interesting dynamic for Jalen Hurts, right? Because you have the team always speaking in Jalen, and they even on day one, we want him to take the reins. We want him to do this. We were they don't name him anything intentionally, right? And then you've got the Deshaun Watson specter kind of hanging all over it. And what I don't know what to make, Adam, and maybe you can help clear it up, is some of the newer allegations. Is it just 10? Is it 10 down from 22, or is it 2 extra that have been?
Yeah, I don't want to. Let's put it this way: ESPN, John Barr, had an update.
Right.
Got it from Rusty. He talked to Rusty Harden, Watson's defense attorney, and there's some revised and new information. Mm-hmm. But just to sum the situation up, there are significant legal issues. It won't be adjudicated at the earliest until February of next year. Mm-hmm. Look, there's a very good chance. I'm not saying I know, nobody knows, but he's on the active roster with the Texans. Whether he's an Eagle or a Texan or any Dolphin, mm-hmm. he might be eligible this year. Maybe they suspend him next year. Who knows? Look, you and I have known, we've talked about this since mid-March. We know for a fact the Eagles have been on this guy, like in terms of had interest in this guy before the allegations. After they came out, they haven't stopped looking into it, monitoring it. Mm-hmm. They know how talented he is. He was incredible last year. It really was. I mean, don't let the record fool you. Their defense was non-competitive for most of the season, the Texans. He was incredible. He played great football. I find it hard to believe they would trade for a guy like this, but based on our sourcing on this thing, they're still in on it. We'll see. If it happens, they got some explaining to do. I just don't understand. It's like if you and I were running the show, right? We would sit down and say, let's talk about the facts. What do we know? Mm-hmm. We send our security team out, get information, NFL security. We got to see what's real and what's not. Is it all real, or you got to take them seriously? There's these accusations, got to take them seriously.
Right.
But can you really prove that he didn't do any of this?
That is to me the very tough sell, and I'm very, I don't know what the word is, but I'm almost fascinated by the report that he wants no NDAs. He wants to be able to tell his side of the story, because that sure makes it seem like his side is going to be a lot different than what's out there, and then maybe it enables him to, I don't want to say change the narrative, but maybe like when you hear his side, you think differently. I don't know. It's going to be hard to make a common person. I think anybody who's read either the court report or the complaint report or even the Sports Illustrated story, it's going to be hard to just completely think that just because he says, "No, I didn't do it," or it's not like that he's the one telling the truth. So, like you said, there's a lot of stuff to parse through here. Yeah. I almost wonder if it's beneficial to the Eagles, not that they're hoping for this, but it's beneficial for the Eagles for this thing to take some time here, because no one's going to trade for Watson until more comes out and until there's either closure or the NFL says something like suspension, no suspension, right? But if we go 5 or 6 weeks into the season, 7, and there's still not closure to the point where teams would make a deal, if that at least gave you 5 or 6, 7 weeks to see how Jalen Hurts is doing with this thing, I don't know.
I don't know.
Or then you wait till the off season.
But it's
hard. The timetable is very, very hard to figure out.
Look, John McClain of the Houston Chronicle came on our show on last week on Sirius XM Fantasy, and he said the stuff that came out last week from NFL Network, he's like, we reported that back in May. They've been willing to trade him since the draft. Deshaun Watson. So now the question is, what's their asking price? You would have to be. I can't imagine they're getting 3 first-round picks. Why? Because the legal issues. If you're giving up 3 first-round picks, you have to have theoretically, look. We know that Ben Roethlisberger was suspended wasn't even charged with anything. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you don't need. We know by the personal conduct policy, you do not have to be charged with anything.
Right. Zeke Elliott too.
Yeah, you don't. You just, if they suspect through their information gathering, we're talking about the NFL, that they did something detrimental to the league, you're going to be suspended. That's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. But here's another thing. I got this from a GM. This is way back, and I just want to mention this again. He goes, look, this team was not in on Watson because they don't need a quarterback. So I said, well, how would you handle this? He goes, the first thing you have to ask yourself is this: do you want this guy to be the face of your franchise? And I looked at it. I didn't look at him. I thought about it. I'm like, how could you? Again, yes, we don't know what happened, what did or didn't happen. But again, can you say with absolute certainty that he didn't do anything wrong?
No, but here's how I look at it, because I think that's a very fair question. And I'm actually not trying to play anybody's defense attorney. I'm just trying to look at precedent and how the league works, right? You asked that question, how could this guy be the face of your franchise? I think you could have asked that same question about Michael Vick, about Ben Roethlisberger, about, well, I don't think running backs can
but your trade, okay, so with Vick, you sign him coming out of jail, okay?
Right. Ben got was a suspension, but it didn't really take away what he had done. And in fact, many people felt that was just a little, slap on the wrist.
Right.
You also look at Joe Mixon. I mean, there were people who were incensed by the fact that this man might get drafted. I mean, he cold knocked a girl out in college, right? He was given a second chance. Some people agreed or disagreed, whatever. Yeah. He got his second chance. He's been drafted. Yeah. And I don't want to say he's been a model citizen. I don't know what his life is like, but I haven't heard him in the news for anything bad in about 4 years here.
Right. But these are a minimum of 22 allegations. It's and again, I'm not saying
I totally agree that this is not apples to apples, right?
That's the thing that I cannot get past as a human being.
Right.
And the thing about Watson is I know people who've known him going back when he was in like 8 or 9 years old. And when I worked at ESPN, I had a lot of information on him. And the charitable work, just a sweetheart of a guy, just a nice guy. And then when you hear what's been accused, you're like, this can't be the same guy.
Yeah, I agree. It almost feels like he's two different people, living a double life or something.
I don't know. I'm perplexed, because I always try to use empathy. Like when teams make tough decisions like this, like the Vic thing bothered me as a dog owner, and seeing Jeff Leary talk about it, I actually started getting teary-eyed when Lori talked about it at his press conference. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you and I were there.
Mm-hmm.
And being a dog owner, it bothered the bleep out of me. I mean, just the Vic stuff.
I totally
got
get
to know
it.
Michael a little bit through the flag football, and I don't hold anything against him, but it still bothers me.
Sure.
But that's, you know, that's he got rehabilitated. He went to jail, and I remember talking to Joe Banner about it and how Andy came in. It was Andy's idea to sign Vic, and I guess he almost fell out of his seat. He's like, "You want to do what? You want us to sign Michael Vick?" Right. But you know, Andy believes in giving people second chances. Now this thing is, but the accusations are superior. This is the most serious accusations. You and I have covered the league, combined, nearly 40 years. I don't know how you get past this stuff, but you have to get to the truth. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it works in the National Football League. If you feel like he's not what he's been accused of, then you may want to go forward with this. And by the way, and you were there, and I listened to it, the Eagles had a chance to shoot down the Watson stuff in terms of being traded for. They didn't do that. They could have just, no, Jalen and Joe will compete for it. We're not trading for Watson. They didn't do that.
They did not. They did not do that at all. All right. So I'm sure we'll be talking about this as camp progresses, and if not longer.
Fascinating. It's just fascinating.
Always be there. It is fascinating. It's I just wonder if you're the Eagles, you're really hoping to see this transitions into the press conference a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they use interesting term language with Jalen Hurts. They say we want him to take the reins. And one of the things that really stood out was that Nick Sirianni said, we're obsessed with the fundamentals of his feet. They're really working with him on his feet. They want his footwork. Nick Sirianni said that, mechanics are mechanics. As long as they're good, you don't try to tinker with somebody's mechanics. You don't want to start changing up everything they do unless it's really, you've talked about Aaron Rodgers holding the ball at a different carriage point. If they feel it's really detrimental to being a quarterback, of course, they're going to change it. I don't think they feel that way per se about Jalen Hurts, that everything he's got to be rectified. It's my understanding they'd like him to get his footwork down. They'd like to get his delivery compact, things like that I'm sure that they work on, but that's not considered a complete change or overhaul of mechanics, right? That's what Nick Sirianni was trying to say.
Right. Like with Wentz, DiFilippo, he actually raised his carriage point because I ran into him in the spring of 17 at NovaCare, and I said, "Hey, Coach, I just saw something. What did you don't have to tell me." He didn't know me. So I was like, "Hey, it's curious." And he said, "Look, I'm going to wind up talking about it, here." So he goes, "Yeah, I raised his carriage point because the process was too long." Where Mike McCarthy told me that because I asked him about Tebow and whenever he was drafted. So what would you do if you had Tebow? He goes, "Listen, I've seen it. He goes, I can only relate to Aaron Rodgers. When I got Aaron Rodgers, because Jeff Tedford coached him at Cal, who would later become the Bucs OC, he said that he held it too high and he needed to lower it. It's just kind of funny how we look at what coaches think, and then you talk about Hurts. Footwork is so important. Bill Walsh always said it starts with the feet.
Right.
And that's interesting that you mentioned that up. I'm now see. It's funny you bring all this stuff up. I'm looking for now. I'm going to take all your notes and I'm listening to this stuff. I'm looking for the stuff. You're making me go crazy now. I got to look for all this stuff on Friday and Saturday. See if they improved over it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, the thing to watch with him, and sometimes it's hard, not just at training camp, but even on TV. Right. You got 3-step drops. You got 5-step drops. Yeah. You got rollouts to the right, rollouts to the left. There's all different drops that require different, cadence with your feet. And they really want him to they want it bang, bang, feet planted, throw. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you're on the run, stop, plant, throw. They just want his
stop, plant, hitch. Yep.
Exactly. They want the feet to be fundamentally sound, which is pretty much what you hear every coach say about their quarterback. So I don't think there's, nobody's sitting here saying Jalen Hurts is a finished product. Nobody thinks that, obviously. So that's what's going to be the emphasis this camp.
Every young quarterback, Wentz went through it. For his regression, I mean, it just, they obviously coached him up real well. Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at all the quarterbacks we've studied, particularly in this market. I don't know if a rookie that came in and was so good, you're like, oh my goodness gracious. Like Wentz certainly by rookie standards was good, but he right,
but he still sailed passes, right?
Yeah,
threw interceptions.
Yeah. Sure, he needed a lot of work. I learned this from Jaws and Cosell, sitting and watching tape with them for 10 years. Some of the stuff we saw from young quarterbacks, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if this guy's ever going to get it.
Right.
But coaching matters. And, as we bring up Sirianni and Patullo and, Brian Johnson. These guys are quarterback developers. Like Sirianni's worked with a lot of quarterbacks. Brian Johnson, obviously, he's known Hurts forever as a young kid, and he's worked with a lot of quarterbacks. He's a former quarterback, Patullo as well. I know, talking to a Jets source, they were really happy with him when he was with the Jets in his role, and he did a good job with the Colts. So we've discussed these guys as receiver guys. They've also helped develop quarterbacks. So if they don't trade for Watson and it's Hurts, I look forward to seeing this. I know my buddy says I'm a Hurts apologist because I keep bringing up the Arizona game. I just think that game showed me a lot of toughness from a mental standpoint. I just want to see if he gets to start the whole season, what this kid could be. Just show me some stuff. Show me something. Show me what he could be. I know it's not going to be perfect. I get it. I just want to see him show progress with these new coaches, and I want to see what these coaches could do with him.
Amen to that. It's going to be a really fun training. It's always fun when there's a new quarterback from a media standpoint, because and then even a new head coaching staff, because you're in fact-finding mode, and this is the best time to do it. And you really make a lot of discoveries as a reporter. That part of the job is very exciting. So it's going to be a fun camp. You'll be there. I'll be there, and we'll have plenty more reports to come from what we see and what we hear. That's it. That's all I've got. Anything else you want to?
Stuff. No, great stuff, man. This is awesome. This you have so much stuff. I'm like, I'm just trying to kind of process it all, and I know I got to look for the stuff when I got to practice.
It's just day one too.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess my Lotta. I guess we'll throw it a nugget for you. For kicks. My Lotta lost a lot. He did lose 25 pounds. We're told so.
And that's from what, the end of or is that all off season or end of camp?
From the end of OTAs. Right. First week, they were the first team to end, I think, in the first week of June.
Yeah.
And that's good. They did what they told him to do. He came in heavy and he lost the weight. And good. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Now, rarely does a player put on weight during training camp. It's next to impossible because you're sweating so much, you lose all that water weight.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be interested to see what we'll check into this. But Herbie, I had Herbig. Someone, our friend Herb, asked us on Twitter. I'd heard
he was asking about Herbig.
I know, not funny, but I'd heard he showed up pretty good. But again, we knew he did.
Look, I can see with my own eyes. You can tell that he lost a good amount of weight.
Another hell of another undrafted free agent fine for the Eagles. I'm not sure how they do this. The undrafted stuff, they've had a lot of luck with obviously it's good scouting. Mm-hmm. That's another good find for them. He's if he keeps his weight down, he's got, he's a guy that has a chance to sign an extension or be with his team for a while as a 6 offensive lineman if he wants to be. If he keeps this up and keeps his weight down, he's got a shot.
Yeah, obviously it helps for him that you can play guard and center because not a lot of people can do that. So good stuff there. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Thanks, as always, to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. His channel is called Sports Talk with Broads, and he's absolutely crazy, so you got to watch him. His website is broadsmedia.com.
He is. He's awesome, though.
He's awesome. He's nuts, but he's awesome.
Follow him on Twitter because I always what he does is he live tweets Phillies games because if you're a Phillies fan, you're going through. They're maddening, and you want to pull your hair out because they're so inconsistent.
Yes,
and his sarcasm is so great. I love the sarcasm of fans because it just like their passion. Philadelphia sports fans, there's nothing like it.
Right. No, nothing like it.
As you know,
Hunter encapsulates it all.
He's great. Yeah, he's exactly.
Follow him on Twitter at Broads81. And as always, also, please make sure you're checking out InsideTheBirds.com. As Adam mentioned, we've had a lot of content, and as camp goes on, we're going to have even more content. I'm writing. Andrew DeCecco will be writing. Adam will probably be writing. So
I'm going to do
a lot of great content.
I'm going to get my somewhat fat ass off of. I used to be a really fat ass, but I'm not as fat anymore.
Now you're looking like Slim Goodbody now, brother.
Yeah, so I'm going to write. In fact, I want to do other teams too, but I'll do Eagles obviously. I'm pretty because I'm not flying away till next week, so I should be able to cobble together some notes from Friday and Saturday, and just observations like Geoff did, just like his article. It's just I'm not making any hard judgments. It's just observations of how guys looked, how explosive they looked. I'm not. I don't chart plays anymore. I used to be obsessive with it. I used to have a notebook like Elliot Shore Parks does. I used to do that like like a, you know, like I have
think
nothing.
if you chart plays, then you miss. Not that
That's
I'm
the
criticizing
exactly.
anybody
I was
else,
going to
but
say
you miss a lot of stuff that's going on.
That's why I
in the
stopped doing it.
periphery.
I miss so much stuff, and what I try to do, as Geoff was talking about, I like to concentrate on 2 or 3 things. Watch offensively, the QB, obviously Hurts in this, and Flacco. The receivers I want to see. I want to see how they use Gainwell, and defensively, I want to see the rotation on the D line. I want to watch Milton Williams.
Yep.
Corner, was Maddox in the slot? I forgot to ask you that.
He was in the slot. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And
Good.
so was Josiah Scott on like the second team. So
okay. Cool.
All right. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.